Hello and welcome to our TISO Hospitality Summer Speaker Series. For those who don't know me, my name is Anthony Lai, Student Affairs Program Manager here at TISO. Thank you for joining us. Today's webinar titled Turning Inquiries into Bookings, featuring Elizabeth Sheils of Rock, Paper, Coin, and she will talk to us on a variety of sales strategies and how to get more people to say yes on the services or products we hospitality professionals have to offer.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for attending today. I am very excited to talk with you all. My background started, I joined Bridal Bliss, which is a wedding planning company based in Portland, Oregon. And I got a job right out of college, and I was sitting at my desk thinking, like, what did I do? I am not a desk person. I just need to be working with people. So I started actually interning for Bridal Bliss, and I slowly learned like this is definitely my calling and what I'm meant to do. So over the next couple of years, I just continued working and eventually went full time. And then I expanded our Bridal Bliss team into the Seattle market. So right now we have 19 coordinators with the company, and we produce around 150 events a year. We are definitely in an interesting time for wedding planning with the COVID, but we are excited just to watch how the industry is being creative and coming up with new ways for producing, micro events or weddings on different sizes. A couple of years ago, my sister-in-law and I were out to drinks, just talking about how the industry is a little bit outdated. And we decided to turn our focus a little bit to producing a platform that would help to streamline the contract and invoicing process for couples and wedding vendors. So we, after brainstorming for about a year, we launched Rock, Paper, Coin, and it's a platform that just does that, contracts and invoices and payments for the wedding and event professionals. So with that, I will go ahead. I'm going to share my screen and we'll dive into talking about turning inquiries into bookings. I am very passionate about this topic. I love sales and I love teaching about sales. So over the next little bit, I'm going to share some takeaways for everybody. As I mentioned, feel free to put any questions into the Q&A. I love robust Q&A section, so honestly, no question is a bad question. All right, so I'm excited to get started. The conversion factor, how to turn inquiries into bookings. All right, so let's just think really quick off the top of our heads about the Nordstrom effect. Now, when I say that if you're gonna go and shop for a car on a used car lot, or you would rather go and spend that, amount of money at Nordstrom's, you probably have a emotional pull of which experience you would rather have. And I like differentiating these two because at the core of it, a salesperson selling a car and a salesperson selling a shirt on paper are the exact same thing. They are in sales, they are commission driven, they're selling a product. But what I think is important to note here is that the Nordstrom effect of their sales approach is incredibly different. Nordstrom does this amazing job of training their employees on how to sell the product without you even knowing that they're really doing it. So this is actually where my love for sales began. At 16, I got my first job at Nordstrom selling kids' shoes, and I quickly learned how much I just love working with people and selling. So, why does this continue to be an essential topic for the wedding and event industry? And I like to highlight that a lot of us are not in the industry or not getting into the industry because, we want to sell. I would bet actually a lot of people here probably clam up at the thought of doing a sales pitch. But the problem really is that we're not able to do what we love if we can't book sales. So it's a problem. Why are we challenged by sales? And we are creatives. We want to make, flower arrangements, bake cakes, plan weddings. We want to work with people. But really, we're not going to be able to work with people or serve our clients if we can't book them. So this is a really important topic, not only for all industries, but really in our creative industry. As planners, we're going to recommend vendors to our clients. And honestly, as a planner at Bridalist, I can't tell you how many times I've actually seen a vendor not sell themselves to a client or end up actually talking themselves out of a sale. People are intimidated and afraid of sales. But with some step-by-step techniques, I hope to leave you all here with some takeaway items on how to better book sales. All right, so before we talk about sales, we do have to make sure that we take care of some precursor items. So first is your website. Now, some of you might have a website, some of you might not. I just like to touch base because it's really important that your website has an inquiry form where potential clients can get in touch with you. So if you already have your website kind of contact form set up, that's great. If not, it's really important when you are building out your website for your business that you have a very simple contact form. Make sure that you have your email address and your phone number listed on this page. Just because you have a form, that doesn't mean that's the way your potential client wants to communicate. So you really need to make it easy for people to connect with you on their preferred method. Now, in a little bit, I'll go into third-party sites, but for now, I just want to highlight, make sure your inquiry form is as clean, easy, has all of your contact information. Over the next 40 so minutes, I am going to argue why published pricing, even if it's just a range, is incredibly important. So just keep that in the back of your mind. I'm going to visit it a little bit later, but I am a huge believer in published pricing. Social media is becoming a very powerful search tool for millennials and the upcoming Generation Z. So we want to make sure, can people reach you through your social media? Now, social media profiles, it's really important to make the most of it, and you want to be able to direct visitors to your website. So there's a couple ways to get potential clients more information about your website. Now, the first is a link tree. So this is Bridal Bliss. We have a link tree. Linktree is great because it allows for visitors to click on just that one link, and it's going to take them to a mobile site where we can host multiple links. So here's our example. Directing them to this information that they can then find on our website. Now, the one thing about Linktree that I do want to highlight is it's actually, I have two things. It's incredibly easy to use, but they do not track the clicks. So this is not going to integrate into your Google Analytics. Therefore, you're not going to be able to track how users are landing on your website. Now, if you are somebody that plans to track Google Analytics or you already really love doing that, then the next option is going to be a hidden link on your page. So instead of Linktree, you'll see on the Rock Paper Coin Instagram that we have rockpapercoin.com/getsocial. Now, we went ahead and built a hidden page on our website. So when you actually go to our website, you wouldn't be able to just find this page. It's something that we then only post on our social media. So that way, the hidden page is going to host all of our other links to the website, but we're able to track it in our analytics better. So we do know when somebody is coming from social media and landing on our website. So it's important. If you are somebody just getting started, Linktree is probably a really great place to be. If you have a website, you're familiar with WordPress, I would encourage you to dive a little bit deeper into the hidden link. All right, so your website inquiry form is great. Social media is there. People can find you and direct you to your website. So now comes talking about the actual inquiry. As I mentioned, there are some third-party sites out there. And honestly, I could actually probably give an entire talk about the pros and cons of these sites. But for today's purpose, I just want to highlight a few things. Third-party sites are great. If you are somebody that is getting like so many inquiries, you honestly can't keep up, or if you need to provide the person inquiring a bunch of information before even wanting to schedule a conversation with them, these third-party sites are really great at streamlining that and saving you a little bit of time. Now, personally, I actually prefer probably to avoid third-party sites for inquiries. The inquiries go directly into my email where I can respond individually. Inquiries are these like precious little like gems, and they're so incredibly valuable, and we really need to get into the habit of treating them like such. This person is already showing interest in your services, so why not start to treat them as though they were already a client? So, regardless if you want to use a third party site or manage inquiries on your own, it's really important to keep that contact form super simple, avoid questionnaires, and make it easy for people to get in touch with you. Third party sites will integrate into your contact form, and make sure to customize it. Take away a lot of the barriers and make it easy for people to get in touch with you. Okay, now if you answered yes to having so many inquiries come in that you needed to automate your process, I want to ask you if you have published pricing on your website. Without some sort of baseline published pricing, I think you're probably wasting a lot of your time on a lot of these inquiries just being price shoppers. Many people are on our websites just wanting to know a beginning package price or a beginning pricing. If listing full pricing on your website makes you a little bit nervous, or you want to maybe change pricing for seasonality or the size of the event, like I totally get that. I think I would just encourage you to use pricing starts at. On Bridal Bliss, this is our page, we have pricing begins at. It allows us the flexibility to still change our pricing, but also lets people know ballpark what we're going to be costing. I've heard throughout, giving this presentation, questions about competition and pricing. And I just kind of want to put it out there. I think you should absolutely know what your competition charges and vice versa. It's an incredibly powerful tool to know what others are charging and then be able to really confidently stand behind your pricing. Like, why are you different? Why should they book you? You can use this as a sales tool if you have the knowledge of what your competitors are charging. Now, when you do switch over to having published pricing, you will likely notice a decrease in your inquiries. But if you are tracking, which I encourage you all to do, you will notice an increase in your conversion rate. And that is really important. We want to spend time on the right inquiries and avoid those price shoppers. So I like to include this slide about response time. This was done, a report done by Splendid Insights, and 92% of couples reported that when booking a vendor, the response time over emails matter than phone calls and text. So why I like to highlight this is that they're pretty eye-opening. People are expecting immediate responses. So we want to be getting to the place where we can do our best to get back to people as quick as possible. When you are the first person to respond to that inquiry, you are likely going to book that first meeting for the client. That is going to allow you to have that first impression and then in their eyes become the expert. If they are talking to a couple different wedding planners or a couple different florists and you get that first meeting booked, they will always be going back to what you told them. And I think it's important that you have that opportunity to become the expert. So communication time is really important. When you are responding to an inquiry, I want to take just a moment and say, make it short. The shorter, the better. Make it easy on yourself and have an email template. So I'll go through a little bit later about how to build a template, but it's important. Do not recreate the wheel every inquiry. Have a template, then go ahead and restate that potential client's name, a little thank you, reconfirm the date, your date availability, and then a low commitment question. Now, as I mentioned, I love templates, and templates are going to save you a lot of time from having to rewrite the same email over and over. I like in my templates to actually highlight certain places with red so I know what I'm going to change and how I'm going to personalize every email I send out. So Gmail and Outlook have great template features. Use them. They are going to help speed up your response time, but don't forget to always personalize. I like to just highlight here, Gmail, they have a template feature, but it is hidden. So here's a screenshot just showing you how you can access the templates in Gmail. In addition, I've also included my actual inquiry response. So you can see it's really short, simple, customizable, and then again, that low commitment question at the very end. So with that low commitment question at the end, what we want to do is we want to get people communicating before asking for a meeting. So these are some samples, what time of year are you considering? Do you have a venue booked? What is your guest count? Do you have a Pinterest board? These questions are important to not have the potential client have to go and look something up, just something off the top of their head that they're going to be able to respond right back to you with. Now, some inquiries are going to ask in the inquiry or initial email to you to just ask for a meeting right away. So if that's the case, then go ahead, just skip that low commitment question, no problem, and have a link in your email for a template to book a meeting directly with you. Do not waste time going back and forth trying to find a time that works for everybody's schedule. Put the power in your client's hands with a scheduling link. So these are all free or have a base level that is free, and it will integrate into your email address. Now, right now everything is virtual, or a lot of things are virtual, but even in a normal time, I actually push for a lot of consults to be done over the phone. Now, unless somebody, specifically requests in-persons, or like you're a venue and you need to show off your property, or, whatever it is, offer a phone meeting. It's going to allow this potential client more flexibility to schedule during a lunch break or include distant family members, whatever it is. Put the power in their hands and have that flexibility. I think that phone calls are great, and you can definitely still connect with a couple over a Zoom. It does not need to necessarily be in person. As I mentioned, social media is a really powerful tool right now. So we want to make sure that we have the ability for people to message you on social media. Now, I'll have one little note. If you are a part of a larger company, I think it's really important to know who is running your social media. Is there a plan in place for when a direct message comes in? Just going through how you're going to, triage a message. If it's just you, or you're thinking about starting your company, social media is key. But what's really important to highlight is that you want to answer the message as quick as possible, but then switch the conversation over to email. Do not keep it on social media because it can get lost in the shuffle. So by switching it over to email, then you can move it over into your normal workflow. Once you have an inquiry come in, you're going to want to set up a tracking system. So this could be online, if you're one of the third-party site users. Otherwise, use an Excel spreadsheet. I personally use an Excel spreadsheet, and I like it because I'm able to track, when the inquiry comes in, when I responded, and when I need to reach out again. Now, if with this tracking system, I can then kind of follow a client and see, if somebody comes unresponsive, I can reach back out to them, etc. Before the call, it is really important that you find common ground with this potential client. So take 10 minutes, use Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest is my hidden gem there, but get to know as much about the people, the couple, as possible. Some people will have private profiles of, Facebook and maybe LinkedIn or Instagram, and that's where Pinterest comes into play. A lot of people have public settings on Pinterest, and you can see, have they liked a certain band? Do they follow certain celebrities? Just little things that you can then drop into your future consult and conversation with them are really important. Finding these common grounds is going to allow you to create that connection, which is going to leave a lasting impression with that client. All right, so phone call. Now, when it comes time for the phone call or the meeting, there's a few steps to take right off the bat. And first is going to be to break down the barrier, get them comfortable using, some of the research from your previous slide, finding that common ground. Get them talking about non-wedding things, and then get ready to use what is called an upfront contract. So now that they're relaxed, you're going to go ahead and use the upfront contract. Now, one thing to note, we don't actually say the word upfront contract. It's actually just a powerful sales tool in getting the client to say yes before actually hearing about your services. An upfront contract is a great transition tool from the small talk, so you can begin by, for the upfront contract, you're going to state the agenda, the meeting and the conversation today, what you're going to cover, state the allotted time, making sure that everything's okay with everyone, and then the expected outcome. This is really key. So with this, you can use the verbiage such as, at the end of our conversation, if everything sounds good, I can send you over a sample contract to review. Does that sound good? Okay, once they have said yes, the upfront contract, it is time to get them talking again, this time in a little bit of a quick manner about their wedding or event. So here are some really good conversation starters. How did you meet? How did you get engaged? Where are you in the planning process? You get the point. So to review, you have your conversation, finding that common ground. You have your upfront contract, getting them to say yes to that sample contract, sample proposal, however you do, your first process, then back into conversation starters. So after they've, spilled their guts to you, to switch gears, to then bring it back to why are they, talking to you. So I usually, say things like, all right, so I'd love to just ask you a couple more questions to get some of the details ironed out about your expectations or where you are in the process. Now I'm going to start asking them questions and how it relates to their, ceremony, wedding, reception, events, whatever it is. I think it's important to note that you want to think of it on a timeline basis. So think as you, the vendor, you need to make sure you're getting all the details that are important to your service. So as a planner, I'm going to start with things like, are they getting ready somewhere? What's the start time for the ceremony? What vendors have they hired? Are they doing a first look or not? Bridal party size, dinner service, music, you get the point. Think about how your vendor category relates to the timeline and then walk them through that timeline. After having provided them, after having them provide you with all of these details, it's important to then ask, what are they looking for in, whatever category? So I use the questions after I say, okay, thanks so much. So I'd love to switch gears and learn, what are you looking for in a wedding planner? And then I listen very intently, and I'm writing down keywords that they use. What are they looking for in a florist, in a caterer? You get the point. When they're done, then I'm going to actually switch gears and I'm going to talk about my service, but I'm going to use their words. So if they are somebody that I just don't want to worry about my wedding day. I don't want my mom to, lift a finger. If me as the planner hears that in my quote unquote pitch to them, I'm going to say, and with this package, moms, dads, aunts, uncles, nobody's going to have to lift a finger. They hear that. So I listened, and then I'm repeating back to them how it's going to go. And then last but not least, we offer a very low risk next step. So that low risk next step is going to relate to that upfront contract. I'm going to go back to that and say, so that kind of concludes today. How did that all sound? Would you guys like to see a sample contract? Now, sample is going to be the key word, sample proposal, sample menu. It's really important to remember they already said yes once at the beginning of the conversation, so getting them to say yes now again is not going to be that hard. After the phone call, it's really important to make it very easy for them to say yes again through your process. So it's like 91% of the time, my couples that I'm doing inquiry and consults for say yes to a sample contract. Because I use the word sample it's the key word, I still actually make my contract, or I'll make the proposal one that they can sign. By utilizing an automated process, you will have the potential client enter their information, such as their name, contact information, address, whatever it is, when they're ready to sign. So you don't have to gather this information up front. Now at Rock Paper Coin, we use Bridal Bliss, we use Rock Paper Coin, but DocuSign and Sign Now are two other great companies that will allow this to happen as well. So whatever company you use to automate your contract and invoicing process, just make sure you do a free trial before committing, and then make sure it's right for you and your workflow. How do you want things to go? Do you want to be able to send a proposal before a contract and an invoice? It's really important to think about those steps. So if you're somebody who wants to send a proposal before a contract, I just wanted to kind of take a moment to step back. Have you ever just sent a sample contract even before a proposal? Now, proposals are a great way to show off your work, but they are going to delay that booking process. Even if you tell somebody that a proposal is a, quote unquote working document, many clients are going to be super hesitant to book until the proposal is just right or close to being right. So could you get by with a, more generic proposal with published pricing? Just ask yourself, really, how much time do you want to invest upfront on a potential client? Is the risk versus reward really there? So back to the sample contract. Okay, if the client agrees to that sample contract, then you will go ahead and send them that sample contract, and then make sure you have an easy way to accept online payments. Generation Z is coming up, and let me tell you, they're not going to have cash or checks. They have a credit card and a phone. So it's really important. You don't want to lose a sale because you cannot accept an online payment, or you don't want to delay a sale and give them the opportunity to shop around. So by accepting electronic contracts, you can then send everything as a bundle. So when that client says yes to a sample contract, you get to send them a contract and an invoice so they can now sign and pay in one easy step. I like to also just take a note. Let's talk about Venmo, Zelle, because they are out there and people are using them. But what message is this sending your potential client? If you were asked to pay for a professional service, let's just say like an oil change or something, and at the end of the service, the guy said, okay, great, go ahead and Venmo me. Would you be taken back? What would you think? Would you be like, that's kind of weird? I think the wedding industry gets by with accepting Venmo and Zelle because we're hiring, one person. You're hiring that wedding planner. You're hiring that florist. But it's also not sending the right message. You are a professional business. So you want to make sure that your booking process is professional, easy, and streamlined. Remember that from the very beginning, you want to treat that inquiry like a client. So the more polished and smooth the process is, the easier you are going to book these clients. All right, so here is your homework. We're gonna start with the sales audit of your website and social media. So you're gonna visit that contact page. If you don't have a website yet, I would encourage you look around at other wedding planners, other florists, their contact page, get a sense of what information you wanna capture, keep it very, very simple. Social media, can people contact you? If you're part of a larger organization, what is the plan for social media? Revisit pricing on your website. I encourage you to post it, even if it's just a baseline. Then consider an upfront contract. Practice using that. Remember, we don't actually say the word upfront contract, but getting used to stating the agenda, stating the allotted time, stating the expected outcome, and getting them to say yes before the conversation starts. What are your conversation starters going to be? How are you going to personalize them? And then contracts and invoices. How are you going to make it easy for them to continue to say yes? All right, so with that, I just want to say a big thank you, but I do want to leave you with a quote that I absolutely love. It's by Jeff Eisenberg, and he says, "It is much easier to double your business by doubling your conversion rate than by doubling your website traffic." And I think that is just incredibly powerful. So think about that. I love connecting with people. I love talking here in our Q&A coming up, or even offline later down the road. So feel free, reach out to me. I also have included a download link. I have a cheat sheet for inquiries with more templates, more conversation starters, some of the facts that we went over today. So feel free to download that, enter your email address, and I'll get that sent off to you right away. So with that, I'll go ahead and stop sharing, and I'll turn back on my camera, and we can dive in if there's any Q&As.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So we'll start off with Q&A. I'm gonna say we use Linktree ourselves here at the school.
Great.
Yeah, it's
Yay, I'm
definitely
so
a
glad to
goal.
hear that.
Yeah, because I remember like Instagram, we used to just have like one link, and then once the next post comes, you have to keep changing it and changing
You
it.
know, it's a great way to just keep it all in one place and you don't have to change it that much. Well, good. We'll give everyone just a few minutes. If you have any questions at all about the upfront contract, a booking process, even the sample contract, sample proposal. I know that can sometimes be, a little bit of a harder concept, or just it's very different than a typical sales approach. So I'm happy to answer any questions about it.
Well, while we wait for people to type in their questions, I love the concept of the low risk, uh, which is I think a lot of customers are afraid to sign or guarantee if there's a risk involved, like a high risk.
Yes, it's incredibly powerful to use the word, sample in that low risk next step after the consultation. I love doing it because people are not afraid. They would actually prefer to look at a contract and see, really like what are the fine print, what are the details of the contract, but sometimes they don't want to ask you to go to the work if they're not going to book. So then there's this like weird hesitancy, but use the word sample and then send the contract to them. It's a very great tool and it's very powerful, and I have had a lot of success with that, so it's been great to see.
Question from Margot: what trends do you see with COVID? Are people still booking? Wedding trends.
Yes, that's a great question. So with Bridal, I can speak to, Bridal Bliss. We are seeing, it's an interesting thing. So about 68% of couples are actually postponing from 2020 to 2021. We are not seeing a change in our couples booking for 2021. So the trend right now is that 2021 is going to be incredibly busy as the wedding community tries to put pressure of two, wedding seasons into 1 year. So a lot of venues, a lot of vendors are fully booked for 2020 because of all of the postponements. So I do think it's a really great opportunity for newer, vendors to enter into the market. Obviously, another trend is that we are seeing a lot of vendors that were only doing a handful of weddings for whatever trade close up their shop. It's just not worth it to kind of keep going down this path. So we are seeing a really like sad effect in that way. But as far as the industry, there is a great opportunity for new vendors to come into the market. With every downturn, the industry will take a little bit of a hit, but the wedding industry is pretty, I'll use the air quotes, recession proof in a lot of ways, because people have been saving for this for many years. So just if the stock market does go down, we typically don't see that big of an effect. We generally see budgets decline by 10 to 15%.
Jenny Howland asks, can you bring back the list of the homework page from
Oh,
your
great.
presentation?
Yep, great. I'll just share again. Give me 1 second here.
And if possible, are we able to maybe get a copy of the presentation?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. There
If
we
you can
go.
send it to me, Elizabeth, and then I will
Yep.
share it with all the members. Yeah.
Yeah, that's no problem. I'm happy to do that. And the download link will also have more information. It's actually the same information, but more ideas than what's in the presentation. So those two combined are really great tools.
Debbie asked two questions. Have couples ask you about COVID concerns, and how are you addressing it? And do you see more requests for virtual weddings?
Those are good questions. So the first one, as far as couples, asking about COVID, it's definitely on the forefront of everybody's mind. We are almost seeing an increase of bookings with wedding planners because everybody is realizing that a wedding planner is really going to help navigate through kind of this COVID mess, so to say. With if a postponement happens, if you have to switch from an in-person wedding to a virtual wedding, you really want somebody spearheading on behalf of you. You don't want to be taking on that work yourself. So wedding planners are definitely seeing an increase in their business as more couples turn to professionals to help navigate this time. So that's definitely a concern for couples. I'd say since we're kind of now almost through July, a lot of couples that just postponed a year from now. So it's the 2021 clients, not so much. We'll kind of have to wait and see what fall and winter brings, but they're not as concerned as, maybe some of the clients that were this fall or winter. They're starting to get a little bit more concerned. And I'm sorry, what was that second part of the question?
Yes. Do you see more requests for virtual weddings?
Great question. At the very beginning of this, really in March, we were seeing a ton of virtual weddings. Everyone was just kind of switching. It was something fun and new. As we're getting more and more down the road, it is becoming less and less. People right now, a lot of our couples are having private ceremonies with just their family members and then planning a reception in 2021. So the virtual aspect, I would say, was very popular this spring, but we are seeing a decline of that. And I think it's related to two things. I think that people are having a little bit more fatigue around, the planning and Zoom and all of this, web-based interaction. And so I think just taking it back to like being present on the wedding day and having like your family be present for the ceremony and then doing a little bit of a larger party afterwards. So that's kind of the trends that we're seeing for this month and into August. So who knows what fall will bring, but that's what we're seeing for a lot of our clients.
Question from Sean. What do you feel is the best way to find competitor prices? Is it best to be direct and ask, or does it require a bit of research, conversations with clients, etc.?
That's such a great question, and I'm so glad you asked it. The wedding industry in the majority of markets is going to be incredibly friendly and close-knit. It is a referral business. We cannot take on all of the weddings that come into us, so we are constantly referring out other businesses and vice versa. I think it's really important to connect with the vendors and be upfront. You can, of course, do your own research, see what your competition has on their website. Are they sharing their pricing publicly? You can then go off of that. If not, having an honest conversation with them and, having a chance to really connect and learn from each other is super important. Some of our good friends in Portland and Seattle are other wedding planners. And we love being able to bounce, not only like if there's a difficult client situation, but also just vendor like best practices, pricing, a lot of our, sales tools and tips we'll share with them as well. It's a big industry in that there's a lot of clients getting married and there's a lot of business to go around. So playing nice with other vendors and connecting with them is important. I will say, secret shopping your vendors is probably pretty frowned upon because if you are pretending to be a client inquiring just to get pricing, you're really just wasting their time, where you could be focusing that time and energy connecting with them and gaining a referral business from that vendor. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that, is really connect with the people in your market, because you'll benefit from knowing each other's pricing and also knowing each other as people.
All right. I think that is about it with the questions. If you don't mind going to where can they connect with you? The connect page. Wonderful. So.
Yeah. And if anybody is, thinking about getting started in the wedding planning business, I am happy to share more about the bridal bliss side of things if that is helpful. I love connecting and I love working with people, so don't be afraid to reach out. It would be my pleasure to answer any questions.
Yes. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. You provide us with a ton of information, which we definitely appreciate.